Hello everyone and welcome back. This is the second in a series of 3 videos preparing you for King's Fall. In the previous video, we went over how to raise your defense to 280 light. In this video, we're going to focus on your weapon loadout. Before we begin, I do want to clarify that this is just simply my recommendations if you don't have weapons that are strong enough. If you already have weapons that you like at 280 light or above, then I recommend going with those. Ultimately, your success is going to be found in your skills in teamwork and communication, as well as your grasp of the mechanics. And speaking of which, you may have noticed that there's no King's Fall footage in any of these videos. That's because I highly recommend going in blind if at all possible. King's Fall is the first raid I went in completely blind and I had a blast figuring it out with my friends. So let's go over a few recommendations just in case you need to fill any of your weapon slots. My only recommendation that I would find crucial in any way is going to be that of the sniper rifle. Other than that, this is the video assuming that you just don't have the weapons you need yet and are looking for good recommendations. Let's start with primary. As I mentioned in my previous video, I recommend pledging allegiance to Dead Orbit if you haven't already. And that reason is so you can get your hands on the Hung Jury SR4. This weapon is single-handedly my favorite legendary weapon in the Taken King. And the best part is that you can buy the best version of it right from Dead Orbit. The first perk is Triple Tap. Rapidly landing precision hits will return 1 round to the magazine. Your first set of selectable perks are going to be Hand-Laid Stock and Extended Mag, and the thing to keep in mind is how incredibly stable this weapon gets with Hand-Laid Stock. This weapon already has plenty of range, so you're not going to notice the difference. That near perfect stability is perfect for Triple Tap. The final selectable perks is a choice between Firefly and Underdog, and I highly recommend Firefly. You're going to be facing off against lots of Hive that like to stick close together, so this is perfect for that. Now, of course, you're going to get Vanguard reputation at a much higher rate than you are the faction reputation, so if you're not at a high enough rank, I recommend an answering cord. You have a chance to acquire this weapon during the actual campaign itself, and I highly recommend picking it up. If not, the version from the Quartermaster isn't too bad. It has Injection Mold and Feeding Frenzy, which are fantastic perks. If you are going to take an auto rifle into the raid, I highly recommend controlling your bursts or else you will run out of ammo. If auto rifles aren't your thing, I highly recommend Not Like the Others. This is very comparable to Hung Jury, but it doesn't have as much stability. But it makes up for it with some pretty great stock perks. The first perk is Crowd Control. Kills with this weapon grant bonus damage for a short time. You also have a choice between Explosive Rounds, Feathered Mag, and Malleus Maleficarum, which says this weapon deals bonus damage against Hive Wizards. And the final perk is Reactive Reload. Reloading this weapon after a kill grants a damage bonus for a short time. So essentially what this weapon lacks in stability, it makes up with lots of different instances of bonus damage. My next recommendation is a Dark Horse recommendation that I only recommend doing if you really are in love with pulse rifles. Pulse rifles were hit pretty hard in the last weapon balance, so they're not as effective as they used to be. But if you do insist on a pulse rifle, you can't go wrong with Hawksaw. Moving on to my one and only pick for a special weapon, and that's the 1000-Yard Stare. I probably sound like a broken record at this point when talking about this weapon, but it is my second favorite weapon in the game, and for very good reasons. Not only is it the highest impact sniper rifle that you can purchase, but it has nearly perfect stock perks. My favorite of which is Triple Tap. Rapidly landing precision hits will return 1 round to the magazine, which essentially means you get a 5th bullet in your magazine for free. A lot of the boss encounters in the raid have you sniping them from long distances, so you will be triggering Triple Tap almost every time. And if that wasn't good enough, you also have Perfect Balance and Mulligan. This is one of the first weapons I purchased and I still use it to this day. Another decent choice is the Extra Solar RR4 from Dead Orbit, but I still can't recommend these because of their impact. For comparison, we have the Tao Hua Yuan from the Crucible, and this is almost identical to Extra Solar in every way. The only time I would recommend these weapons is if they happen to drop for you with perks like Hidden Hand, Speed Reload, or Spray and Play. Moving on to my heavy weapon picks, they are all going to be machine guns, starting with the Ruin Wake. The reason I recommend Ruin Wake is because it has a very low rate of fire and high impact. This is my favorite variety of machine gun and it's very effective. The stock perks are pretty decent with Life Support and Hidden Hand. If you don't play much Crucible and happen to be with New Monarchy, I recommend Objection 4. It falls in the same class as the Ruin Wake, but it has some pretty great stock perks, namely Counterbalance and Persistence. And with the element being solar, this is going to be perfect against Hive Wizards. Now, up until now, everything has been a legendary weapon, so let's talk a little bit about exotics. Now, I always recommend having a perfect set of preferred legendaries, that way you're open to any exotics that you want. My first recommendation for primary is going to be the Zalo Supercell. This weapon has incredible perks and will work really well against Thrall and Acolytes. Another one of my favorite weapons to use in King's Fall is the Suros Regime. Perks like Spinning Up are great at taking out Majors, and Suros Legacy will help you stay alive. Next, we've got the infamous Black Spindle. The DPS of this weapon is going to be at parity with the 1000-yard stare, especially if it has triple tap. And if your 1000-yard stare happens to drop with Casket Mag, you'll have 5 bullets, allowing triple tap to trigger twice. While it's great for enemies with large hitboxes that stand completely still, I don't like it for an all-around weapon. But some people swear by this weapon, so if you have it, use it, see how you feel. But it won't be replacing my 1000-yard stare anytime soon. Lastly, let's start with heavy weapon exotics, starting with Thunderlord. Thunderlord is my favorite heavy weapon exotic in the game, and for a good reason. The first perk is Feeding Frenzy, helping you with your reload speed. Perfect Balance helps you stay on target, and then you've got Lightning Rounds, which is basically a combination of persistence and spinning up. This weapon is fantastic at dealing lots of damage over a short period of time. Lastly, I want to touch on Super Good Advice. I do believe that this weapon deserves an honorable mention, simply because it's been greatly improved since Year 1. And while I don't recommend buying it, if you happen to have one, it will serve you more than fine in close quarter encounters. I hope you guys enjoyed my recommendations. Ultimately, I recommend exploring and trying out different weapons to see what feels right for you. What is your preferred weapon loadout? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, drop a like if you can, and subscribe for more content, and I will see you all next time.